Welcome once again to the Coach Damon Floyd Show here on ESPN Cleveland 103 and the Bear Network. I'm your host, Gary Ownbey. As each week we talk about the game with our coach, and this is brought to you, of course, by LB Appliance out there on Durkee Road. We appreciate those folks sponsoring our coaching show each week. Coach Floyd, Friday night, tough loss to Region 4 Oak Ridge, who is a mighty, mighty good program. And I refer back to what we call bus face. That was one of those kind of games. I mean, it was a knockdown, drag out, defensive affair from the word go, and neither team would give in. And a great game to watch. It was one of those you just couldn't relax at all, man. It was a tense game.
Yeah, we knew going in, it's, like I said, the most talented team we had played up until this point. They're very well coached. They got really good players. So we knew it was going to be a battle. We hoped it was going to be a battle. And I thought for the most part we played really well. Offensively we got to find a way to keep moving the chains. And we obviously struggled there. And, that was the difference in the game. So defense kept us in it as long as they could. And, we just couldn't pull out the victory. So close game against the top team in the state, and it is what it is. It's a loss, and we've got to try to find some different answers offensively.
Well, you made a comment when I talked to you Saturday. We went toe-to-toe with one of the best teams in the state, as you say, and held her on. Our defense, we had three different guys, AJ, Andrew, and Anthony, all with 10 tackles apiece. And Oak Ridge quarterback, he was scrambling for his life a lot. I mean, there was a lot of pressure on times that we couldn't get to him, that he was getting rid of the ball as best he could, and so was Tucker for us, because they were after us on the quarterback side of there. We cleaned up our penalties significantly with only 3 penalties. They had 14. There were other penalties that were called against each team that were offset by penalties on the opponent. So it was a crazy game there. They had over 100 yards of penalties. And I want to highlight Spencer McCouch. He had to step in for Kenyon. He had the main bulk of the carrying. He had about 70 or 80 yards, something like that. He had an interception. Yeah. He actually had 2, but one got called back because of pass interference call against us. But he played well both games, I thought. I mean, both ways for offense and defense. But we want to have Kenyon back this week, or do we know yet? Or
we're still waiting. It's still a week away, so just waiting on his ankle to see how it is later in the week. We'll give him the first 2 days off, and if he can go Wednesday, then we'll let him play. If he can't practice, then we won't let him play. So, but speaking of Spencer, he's very, very hard worker. He's one of the hardest workers we've ever had here. I actually have to tell him quite a few times throughout the season, like, to quit training on his own, because he's relentless on wanting to work work extra. But he plays offense, defense, special teams. Never complain. Well, the only time he complains really is when we bring him out, even in practice. He doesn't ever want to come out of practice. But we love that about him as a player. And so once again, I've said this before. I've seen this throughout the years I've been coaching, is usually good things happen to those players that put in kind of effort. And so to see him, get rewarded with an interception, and then, as soon as Kenyon, we knew he wasn't going to play, Spencer obviously stepped up to the plate and said he'll run the ball against a very tough defense. And, so running the ball in a 6A program against teams like this we play, it's tough. And then you go on the other side and play defense. I mean, it just says a lot about his character and, what kind of kid he is. Well,
I was really highly complimentary of him that Friday night. I thought he was there. As you say, he's relentless. He wants to play out every play, and gets upset if you don't play him there. Our defense, we gave up. We bend but not break. We stopped them there twice inside the 10. I don't know how much better they can play than that. We got to figure out on offense where we can move the ball and keep things going there. But defensively, it's been there all year long, the defense, and I hope it continues to hang in there. We're going to have a tough game we'll talk about here in a little while on Friday. But people like Spencer, you said this over and over. You may not be the starter right now, running back, but you never know what's going to happen. Like with Kenyon going down, he steps up, and we've had other guys step up throughout the years. With knock on wood, we've been relatively injury-free this year. He's been the first major injury I guess we've had. We've had some other guys hurt and all that, but it's a different look than last year. Is this the kind of game that you like to coach, a defensive battle like this, or would you have a shootout? Or
I'd rather play really good defensively and really good offensively than it be a blowout. No, it is fun games to coach in, because that's why you get into it, And to be quite honest, we've been on the side where we're blowing other teams out, and after the game, it's usually just because you're more talented. It's not anything you've done as a coaching staff. So, those games are fun. It's a battle, and that's if you're a competitor, you want to compete. So, I think it was fun for our kids. Obviously, come up on the short end. They're not happy about that, and they shouldn't be. So,
I hope not.
But, you know, it's a tough loss, but at this point, it is what it is, and we got to move on to the next week because obviously we got a big one this week.
Got to keep on going. Let me ask you, I've never asked you this. Before the game, the official on the field, you're out there, their head coach is out there, the ADs are out there. What goes on in that conversation out there before you even flip the coin? What are they telling you guys? Or
they're just making sure they go by the rules, making sure your players are, you know, equipped the right way, and making sure that we're concentrating on sportsmanship. They're basically telling you they'll handle anything in between the lines. We need to handle everything outside the lines. Talk about security issues. Talking about you know, if you have a trainer and a doctor, what they'll be responsible for.
Okay.
If there's any emergencies, this is how we react. So just going over, you know, basic protocols of a game and trying to cover all scenarios. But and then, you know, sometimes they'll ask, you know, if there's anything we need to watch from the opposing team that we've seen to keep an eye out for. And then, you know, little things like, is your quarterback right-handed, is your kicker right-footed, left-footed, so they know where to stand in those situations. So.
Oh, I'd never think about something like that. Well, that's interesting to hear all that. I didn't realize there was so much information exchange out there, but it makes sense. You know, it's all about, you know, safety and concerns for not just the players, but, you know, hey, if there's a mercy, what do we do? Where do we go? You know, but I figure it's out there asking where they're going to go eat after the game or something like that. You know. But.
No, I mean, it's, you know, it's all business.
Yeah,
it's all business
good.
with the teams. It's all business with the officials, and you know, they do a good job. So of covering all the bases, and you know, I know I probably get on them as hard as anybody at times throughout the game, but it's nothing personal. I really do think they do a good job, and they're trying their best, just like we are. And do they make mistakes? Yes, but look, I make plenty of mistakes myself. So, you know, I've been in it long enough too to know you build some relationships with those guys, and sometimes they tell me I'm wrong, and sometimes I tell them they're wrong, and we go back and forth. But at the end of the day, it is what it is, and I think they all understand that and don't take it personal, and because it's an intense moment. And you know, the bottom line is, if you look around, football coaches, our jobs are on the line. You know, I mean, people get hired and fired, and it is what it is. So for us, it's serious business because our livelihoods are at stake. So it means a lot to us on Friday nights.
I mean, I'm sure they understand too the magnitude of, hey, when there's a call made that you disagree with, and you know you're talking to them about that, they got to think, hey, what you said, this is my job.
Well, there's a way to go about it.
Yeah.
And am I always the most respectful person? No. But I try to be until moments happen, and sometimes I don't react the right way. So, and I've apologized many times and told them I was wrong in those instances. So, but once again, I think they understand that.
Well, they make mistakes, like you say. You make mistakes, coaches. And Lord, if you don't hear mistakes, it's just one of my broadcasts. You'll hear.
Well, look, there's been plenty of times I think it's one way, and they've seen it another way.
Yeah.
And after I watch film, I've sent texts and said, "Hey, okay, I was wrong. I see what you saw there." So, like I said, it's all part of the game.
Well, they respect that if you do that. You got to man up to do that. We're going to take a break here and come back. We'll talk about the big game Friday night from across town rival Cleveland High School. And we'll be back after these words from LB Appliance on ESPN Cleveland 101.3. Welcome back to our weekly coach show with Coach Damon Floyd, the head coach of the Bears, now in his 20th year. Our show's brought to you by LB Appliance out there on Dirt Key Road. Josh Taylor, guys. Check them out for any appliance needs, service, or parts, or whatever you might need. Well, Cleveland's one of those games, Coach, we circle on the calendar every year, see when we play them, where we play them, stuff like that, and this is no different. They're struggling a little bit, of course. They're a young team, but hey, they didn't feel sorry for us when we were struggling, so we're not going to feel sorry for them, but it's one of those games. It's intense, it's emotional. We just got to keep our head on straight Friday night and do our thing.
It's one of those games you can throw the records out the window. The records do not matter. The only thing that matters is this particular week. It's a huge rival. Both kids know it from both teams. And, you know, last year we were really struggling, and they were, you know, playing really well, and it ended up being a one-point game. So I think, you know, Cleveland's going to come here with the attitude of trying to win the game, obviously. So it's going to be a tough physical football game. They play extremely hard, and we have got to match that intensity. And we need a really good week of practice. there's been some times this year that I felt like we haven't practiced very well, and then sometimes that carries over to performance on Friday night. The times we've practiced well, I think we've played pretty well on Friday night. So if our kids aren't locked in this week, then they probably don't even need to play this sport. So it'll be an intense week. It should be a fun week, and it should be a fun game. But we have work to do, and we need to make sure that we handle our business Monday through Thursday.
Well, you're going to see one of the best quarterbacks around, Case McGowan, who is just a junior this year, and Brayshawn Beard, running back, who was with us last year, is back at Cleveland now. So they've got some talent over there. What causes you unrest tonight? And let me ask you this. I'm bad about waking up in the middle of the night and think about something, and now I can't forget it. I've got to get up and look it up or whatever. Do you ever sit in the middle and say, oh, man, we need to do this Friday night, or we shouldn't have done this? Or does that get you awake anytime at night?
I mean, yeah, it's all times during the night, the day. But, we spend a lot of time as coaches. Sundays, we spend about 10 hours here on Sunday watching film and going over different things every Sunday. So, and then Saturdays are pretty much, I alternate between watching college football and watching film of previous game and upcoming opponent and breaking them down. So Saturdays and Sundays are long. So Monday and Tuesday, the coaching staff, like our normal routine is figuring stuff out, making decisions. If it's good by the end of Tuesday practice, we're going with it. If we need to make a couple changes on Wednesday, we will. But so by Wednesday, to answer your question, it's kind of settled down and you got your game plan in, and that's what you go with. But
at first, it's just a walkthrough, isn't it? You don't really.
Yeah, especially at this point in the year. I mean, we're not going to get in better shape. We're in game shape, and really, you're just trying to stay healthy, get them to Friday night, make sure they understand what we're trying to do. But you don't change a whole lot at this point in the season unless you got some personnel changes. But it's a draining season, I'll say that. But everybody's going through it, so it's no excuse. Everybody's doing the same thing, and we just have to understand, like I said before, it is a work week, and we have to make sure we come to work on Monday.
Well, right now, with the TSSAA environment we're in, players can switch teams at the drop of a hat, basically, and switch from year to year at least. We've got several players that came from Cleveland High to Bradley. Friends of theirs, that they probably got along with, maybe some of them didn't get along with. And this is one of those games you have to reel your emotions in, and focus on the task at hand rather than let your emotions get out of hand, because I'm sure the referees, they're aware, hey, this is Bradley Cleveland, and they're going to.
Yeah, from what I understand, we're getting the state championship crew this week.
Okay.
So that says a lot about the crew that we're getting, and they understand that Bradley Cleveland's a big game. But the thing about Bradley Cleveland's always been they've grown up knowing each other. They played Little League, and the thing about it is now, really, honestly, the teams we've been playing, our kids know each other for the most part because the 7-on-7, the travel leagues, things like that. Yeah. So. It's the way college football is. It's the way high school football is. With the transfer rules, some people choose to go other places for whatever reason it may be. And we've always said here, it doesn't matter how you got here, when you got here. The bottom line is when you get here, you're a Bradley Bear. And so, once you put on that black and gold, like your family, and that's the way we treat it.
And you help us be successful, and that's what you're looking for there. Well, Friday night is senior night. Unbelievably, we got 3 road games coming up after Friday night, but you got 17 seniors, I believe. What do you remember? What are you going to remember about this group of 17 seniors? I'm not going to ask you to name those, but 2 years ago we went to the state semifinals. Last year we had a tremendous amount of injuries. Ended up with 3-7 season. What stands out to you about this group of guys most? I guess
I've not really thought about that, so you put me on the spot. But I think for the most part, is like we just talked about. Really, is a group of guys coming from a lot of different areas. That have come together to become a team. And that's what I enjoy as a coach. I enjoy the schematics of it and trying to game plan and seeing if it works. But the also thing I enjoy is bringing people together and becoming a team. And, just to be quite honest, that's harder this day and age. But, I think people forget that we've always had Wiley Suskowicz. He came from California. He didn't come this year, but he didn't grow up here.
Right.
There's lots of kids. Kenyon Phelps
Alabama.
Came from Alabama. Like there's lots of kids, and it's been that way for a while. That you have kids come from all different areas, and they're just trying to reach a common goal. And that's to win a football game on Friday. So that's what I enjoy, and that's what I enjoy seeing. Is you get out there and you work hard and you sweat and you bleed together. And it forms a bond that no other sport does this.
Right.
What you go through in June, July, August in the heat, and it's hot, and you're fighting each other until you play somebody else. And so those are the things I enjoy being a part of.
I know you've said this over and over every time during this time of year. You get no greater pleasure than a former Bear coming back, you know, to watch a game or come by to your office to see you or see you somewhere in town and talk, reminisce about the old days and when they played, whether it's good or bad, you know. I know that's the thing that you really like too as well.
Yeah, it's really not even the games. Everybody wants to see the game. I enjoy when they come to the off season, they come to the weight room, or they come see a practice, or obviously seeing them in the community means a lot. But that's why we do this, is the relationships you form. And you know, as a player, I have some very strong relationships with guys that I played with in the past, my former teammates, and that's what I tell these guys is, like I said, you're going to create a bond with these guys that will never be broken.
Yeah, that's the great part of it, I guess, when you're a coach there, and it's that way with every school there. We're going to wrap things up here. We got that big game Friday night. It will be senior night. Our last home game tonight will be Cleveland High coming across town. We'll be on the road then to Soddy Daisy, taking an off week, and then to Maryville and to Bearden to wrap up the regular season here. And we're just, you know, not talking postseason, but we're thinking ahead about it and see what can happen. But it's got to happen by winning games. So we look forward to seeing what we can do against Cleveland High School on Friday night. I'd like to thank Coach Floyd again for being here, LB Appliance for sponsoring our program, and Mr. Winslow and his class here at Bradley Central in Studio H12 for producing these shows each week. Until next time, God bless and go Bears.